Howdy, howdy. We are live on a Friday night with some Star Trek Lower Decks to talk about. Very, very exciting in the build up to season 4. And even more exciting because Aaron and I are joined by our friend Brandi. So this is going to be a lot of
Yay.
fun. She's one of my favorite Trekkies out there. So
Oh,
I'm I'm very excited to talk about Lower Decks with the two of you. And I see there's people in the live audience already. So I think we should go ahead and get the show started. We'll just go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Fatheree,
I'm Aaron.
and I'm Brandi.
and this is Tex-Trek slash Drawn to Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 256th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight we are starting our joint mission. Aaron, this is kind of like when you have like two starships in
Yeah.
Starfleet, and they're like on a joint mission together. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
So we'll argue over who's going to be in command, and somebody will end up in the brig. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, one of us is going to be Freeman. One of us is going to be Durango, that Tellarite captain from Moist Vessels.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is also Tex-Trek number 256, as well as Drawn to Trek number 12. If people don't know or don't remember, because it has been a while, Aaron does a animated Star Trek podcast called Drawn to Trek, and together we will be covering Lower Decks season 4, premiering in 2 weeks on Paramount Plus. And tonight we're going to be talking about the top 5 things we're most excited to see in season 4, along with our friend Brandi. Brandi, how are you doing tonight?
I am peachy keen and so ready to talk about Lower Decks.
I'm sure people are ready to listen. I know that you're pretty passionate about Star Trek.
Just a smidge. Just, it's
The
only my
background wouldn't
favorite
indicate
thing.
any of that.
No,
It's
no.
so-
In
you
fact,
keep it
Spock
really
is
low
my
key and
least.
hidden.
Yeah, Spock's my least favorite character. I don't even know why I torture myself.
Yeah, that's pretty common, right? Nobody loves Spock. It's like the opposite of Raymond.
Oh, nobody loves Spock. That could be a metaphor for many things.
Including
Anyway,
Spock.
including Spock.
Anyway, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fun tonight. Just before we get into that, I do need to say thank you to the Tex-Trek Patreon supporters. There's so many of y'all that I can't run through the credits until the end of the show, but I'll be sure to shout out all y'all's names then before we sign off. And just a reminder to everyone, we like to celebrate with our patrons every month. We have a watch party with them. We're having a really special one in September for the 50th anniversary of the animated series. We're actually going to be watching a couple of TAS episodes. So I think Yesteryear, and I don't know what the other one that we're going to watch, but I think it's just going to have to be the Slaver Weapon, just because I love the Kazenti so much. So.
And there's no Kirk. It's like a kind of a first in that time period.
The first episode to not have William Shatner in it. I guess if you don't count The Cage, which
Well, yeah.
Technically at that point in time, The Cage hadn't been released. So
Exactly.
yes, Slaver Weapon is the first. But yeah, so that'll be fun. You can come into the Patreon as little as $2 a month. If you can afford to be more generous, there's additional perks as well. You can come in at a higher level, but those watch parties have been a lot of fun. Also, there's going to be some Star Trek Day festivities. I know that they're having an official presentation that's going to stream on Paramount Plus on Star Trek Day, September 8th. But there's also some unofficial stuff in the works. I know it's still being arranged, but I think Aaron can maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we are going to talk TAS 50th anniversary. We're still trying to figure out what time, given like I don't want to go at the same time as Paramount Plus because I don't think I will win. Uh, but and it would be good to have it maybe after if it's possible, just so we can talk about what we heard. Or there might have those animated shorts might happen on that day. I'm kind of guessing. So that would be fun to talk about. And yeah, and we have some special guests that I'm working out, so I don't want to say it yet in case it doesn't happen. But a couple people,
But yeah,
gonna
some
pop in.
particularly special people.
Yes,
So, yeah, so that's gonna be a
Brandi
lot
and
of fun.
Steve. No.
I'm looking forward to being there, and yeah, it will be I think it'll be a big celebration of animated Star Trek, which is
We're the weird people who took time off of work for this day.
Yeah.
Like just at this point, I'm like, no, September 8th is just like Christmas. It's just off the
it's
calendar.
like a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took off last year actually. But yeah, and if there's anything announced, if there's well, we know we're getting like another season 4 Lower Decks trailer that day.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I think that we might get like a Discovery season 5 trailer, or something else. Maybe, who knows? Maybe even like a little bit of news with the Academy show. I know like there's not like it's like they can't do any casting right now while the actors are on strike. So I don't know what they would announce, but maybe something. Who knows?
If something was recorded before the strike.
Yeah. So, whatever happens Star Trek Day, we'll be covering it, and also the other. I guess that's going to be on the Trek Geeks channel, right? The stream that we're trying to.
I'm not sure.
Okay, it'll be somewhere.
Yeah, it'll
let you
either
know.
be Trek Geeks or it will be on here. So we'll talk with Bill and get that all ironed out.
Yeah,
if he's listening, maybe he will tweet me. No, not tweet me, but message me.
Like I was saying, it's still in the works, but
yeah,
Aaron's gonna get something pretty great because
it'll be fun.
It's a huge deal. It's the second time a Star Trek show has turned 50 years. That's a pretty big milestone.
I think if it wasn't this year, it would have been helpful just because the strike has sort of like caused chaos with everything. And related to that, I actually have talked with Mike McMahon and Aaron Walke, and we are not doing anything that shows that we're not in concordance with the strike. We're obeying all strike rules. This is an animated show, so it's a different union
Contract.
Although different contract. Some of the people that come on are also in SAG-AFTRA though, so we have to be take that into consideration. So if, like, say Bonnie Gordon came on and talked, she could talk about doing voiceovers in animation in general, but not talk about doing voiceovers in Prodigy specific. So
we don't want to get anyone in trouble.
But no, we don't want to get anybody in trouble. We don't want to lose a SAG card over this or something because it's not worth it. But we also, we just want to show that we're also in solidarity with them because it's important what they're trying to get, like actually paid for what they do. Crazy idea, I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yesterday we actually even were doing the Star Trek Save Star Trek Prodigy banner thing where the airplane flew. Yeah, we were probably going to talk about that. However, we were across the street from the strikes at Netflix, so we got to see a lot of what was going on, talk with a lot of people there. So it was really interesting to get the on the ground perspective.
Yeah, that was cool to see the plane with the Save Star Trek Prodigy banner on it like that. I don't know.
Organized by somebody from the UK, which is crazy because it's like trying to organize anything in Los Angeles with people in Los Angeles is almost a nightmare. So yeah, it was a little bit late. And the reason I'm very red is because I am sunburned. Yeah, so it was great. Bonnie Gordon was there, Aaron Waltke. We had the people from the LA away team, and we would have had more people if it wasn't the middle of the workday. That was a little bit difficult, but we had a lot of people checking from their, out the door of their house, and a couple of people got some really far away pictures of them going to Santa Monica and stuff. So it was very cool to see that, but it got a lot of traction. It's been picked up in the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah,
it was a featured story on Nerdist. So it's like yeah. So I'm excited, and hopefully that I guess what was it? The Expanse had a banner campaign as well, or something like that, and that helped Amazon know that there was an audience to support it. So
yeah. Well,
fingers crossed.
When I talked to Kevin Hageman a few weeks ago, he did say like he thought Netflix would be a so that's a very likely one. So I don't know if that's somewhere where they're having active talks or what, but he seemed to think that there's a good shot of it going there.
Apple might be another one I heard too, which is
Yeah, that was another
interesting.
one, and of course Netflix. But yeah, I'm confident it'll find a show somewhere. The people who
Yeah.
work on Prodigy are confident it'll find a home somewhere. So
Apple is very like we're technology focused and super positive. That's sort of the idea. It's like, oh, that's Star Trek, you know. So it's like it feels like that would be a really good fit for them too, because they even in their big what is it, the presentation they did a couple months ago, they had that 3D Enterprise with the you could fly through and you could see all the different rooms, and so it's like they already have Star Trek as kind of a thing that they like. So yep.
well, uh, in addition to that, like another other piece of news, there's also GalaxyCon Austin is happening next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I guess that's Labor Day weekend, right? But
Is
yeah,
it?
that's September 1st
Wow.
through the 3rd. So I'll be there.
How has this year
Um,
gone that fast?
a lot of Trek actors are going to be in attendance. I think Jonathan Frakes, William Shatner, Gates McFadden, LeVar Burton,
Wow.
Terry Farrell, Armin Shimmerman, and more. I'm forgetting Walter Koenig. So strong Star Trek presence there. I'd love to go and see. I want to see as many Star Trek uniforms as I do anime cosplayers. I know I'm not going to, but as many as we can get there would be great. So if you're in the Central Texas area, please
Anime Star
come
Trek
by.
uniforms.
I guess
Combine
that's
them.
kind of what they have on lower. I'll wear a lower decks uniform. Be like, I'm
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
kind of anime-ish, right? But yeah, like
Absolutely.
all the nerds around here, they're just like big, like into anime. I don't know, maybe it's like that everywhere these days. But
Yeah, I think this is
It's like that
fair
here
amount.
too.
Yeah, we have an anime expo or something in
we
the LA Convention Center every year.
we get a lot of anime conventions in Texas because Funimation is headquartered in Dallas.
Ah,
But I know a lot of the voice actors live around here because I mean like they work in Dallas, so it makes sense. But that's all we got as far as like news goes. But we are joined by a lovely guest, Brandi. So Brandi, if you'd like to just introduce yourself to our audience here, and please tell us just like how did you get into Star Trek?
Well, I'm Brandi Jackola. Hello, everyone. I see there's someone in the chat that actually knows who I am. So, yay! Besides my husband, I mean. And, well, how did I get into Trek? I didn't really have a choice. I was born into it. So, but that's not to say that I wouldn't have chosen it if I had been given the choice.
Star Trek
Because
cast or something.
yeah, pretty much my parents were watching it while they were dating. They got married in 1968. I was
Oh
born in
wow.
1973, and so the original series was already in syndication by that point. And in our state, in our city, it was literally on every day of the week. There was at least one episode on every day of the week, and sometimes there was a block of 2 or 3 on the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And so I don't know a time before Trek. I couldn't tell you what my first Trek episode is because I
Yeah.
was so young that I can't access those memories. And I do remember being terrified by Trek many times. And that was actually one of the
The
scariest
creepy head in the
episodes.
credits. Ah,
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah. Ooh,
Baylock.
Bal- Balak. Yeah, and the Devil in the Dark is responsible for my Spock fandom because it was the episode that terrified me so much. I thought that the Horta was hurting Spock when he was melding with it, even though they hadn't figured out the meld stuff and he wasn't actually touching the Horta, and they didn't call it a mind meld until like season 3. But I thought that the Horta was hurting him, so I got very upset. And that's when I realized, oh, this is my favorite person on this show. So a lifetime love was born of
Oh,
both Trek and Spock. And we would watch it together as a family. When Next Generation came out, we watched as a family Deep Space Nine, Voyager. Right around the time of late Deep Space Nine and Voyager, people started leaving and getting married, and so it wasn't always the family all together, but we've all continued to watch Star Trek throughout our lives, our entire family.
that's
And
amazing.
thanks to my parents, who are sadly no longer with us, but they instilled a lifelong fascination with Trek and with sci-fi in general.
That is so cool to hear. I'm glad that you had those experiences.
Yeah.
I had kind of like the opposite journey. Like no one in my family ever watched Star Trek at all. I don't like. I just by luck stumbled into it as a kid. But yeah, that's really cool. Um, well, we're going to be sharing the top 5 things we want to see in Lower Decks season 4. It's a format that the Tex-Trek audience might remember. We've done it a few times before, just recently going into Star Trek: Strange New World season 3. But yeah, I've asked Aaron and Brandy to come up with a list of the top 5 things they want to see, and then none of us, I think none of us have like revealed our list to each other. So
Mm-mm.
this will all be surprises to ourselves. And,
It'd be great if they were all exactly the same, which is really weird.
Oh, they're not. I can
Yeah.
guarantee I've got at least 2 weird ones up in
Well,
here. So
we like weird ones, so that keeps things interesting, right?
yes.
Yes.
But if there is overlap, that's fine. If someone says like, "Oh, your number 4 is the same as my number 2," then we can bring it up then and share what you want to say about it, or you can wait till it's your turn later. But yeah, we'll just go around and I don't know who would like to go first. I can if y'all want me to like set the tempo, or if maybe we
If
should
weird is part of
let
the
our
job, maybe that Brandy should do.
yeah let our guest
Oh, you want
go
me to
first.
start?
Yeah.
I can
Yeah, yeah.
start. Okay. My number 5 is I want on-screen canon confirmation that Dr. Gillian Taylor created cetacean ops. And I want to see more aquatic mammals. There can be more than just 2 beluga whales up in there. Come on.
I had not even
love that.
pondered the possibility of that, but that just became my headcanon.
Yeah.
Dr. Taylor invented citation ops.
Which is hilarious because just before this, I found a video that somebody created. It's done like an old unsolved mysteries, and they must have used an AI because the guy sounds exactly like Robert Stack. And it's the unsolved mystery of Dr. Gillian Taylor, who disappeared in the late summer of 1986. And it's hilarious. I put it on Twitter. You'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah, that is great. If anyone in our audience wants to, and if any of the mods who can post links want to post a link to that in the live chat, that'd be great. But yeah, like Dr. Taylor was
great,
also
yeah.
like, Star Trek 4 was right before season 1 of TNG when they would have been like designing the Enterprise. So I don't know, like I almost want to ask like Mike Okuda or Andy Probert or any of those people like working on like early TNG, like was that like intentional? Were you like thinking of
Yeah, I
Star
didn't
Trek
think about
4? Like you just had like the humpbacks go to the 23rd century and now you're putting dolphins on the Enterprise. So is there a connection there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want that. I really want that. I wanted that ever since I heard of cetacean ops, really. So a long time.
It seems like cetacean ops might be coming back. I mean, like I don't know exactly how and what function, but it seems like that's too big of a thing now to like not at least showcase once in a while.
How
Yeah.
many times did we see them in season 3? Because I know like they're in the least dangerous game. Boimler like runs through them when he's through there when he's being hunted.
We saw
Yeah,
them being interviewed on the what is it, the final episode? The one
Yeah,
right before the finale.
The Stars at Night.
Yeah, the
I
Stars at
believe.
Night. Oh, I have a cat. Sorry. Hi. I'm on the air.
That's the beauties of live entertainment.
Yes, cats don't understand podcasting.
No, I mean my dog Amos frequently interrupts us, so he might bark at any moment.
Mm.
Brandy, should we expect any like strange animal noises from your end?
No, my door is shut and the cat is with my husband, so there
That's good.
shouldn't be any issues.
That's great that you're more professional than we are and have that
No,
under wraps.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, he could still come up to the door and yowl his little head off at any second, so it shouldn't happen. But
if it does
yeah.
happen, we'll consider it a cameo.
Yes, absolutely. His name is Growler because he purrs so loudly that it sounds like he's growling.
I don't own any cats. I'm much more of a dog person, but if I did have a cat at some point in the future, I think I would have to name him what is it, Aaron? Chuff Captain from the
Oh, Chuff Captain. Yeah.
Yes, Chuff
If I ever own a cat, that's gonna be his name.
Aw.
What does Chuffed Captain mean, though? It's just
I think it's their combination of their name and the position they have in society, essentially.
Yeah, I don't really know the ring world mythology like at
Yeah,
all. Everything I know about it, I've learned from the slaver weapon, to be honest. But the one thing I think I've heard is that like the Kazenti don't have names, but if you're like a real cool Kazenti,
yeah,
then you can kind of like earn a name and be given, instead of just being like a captain, you're chuffed captain. Like that is like a distinction.
Is that like fleet captain?
yeah. I'm wondering. I don't think I've ever thought about it.
Think about stuff like this all the time. That's why my list is weird.
Well, if that's your number 5, I guess I'll share mine. But my number 5 is I want to see Tholians in
Ooh, yes.
in Lower Decks season 4 because I wanted them in both seasons of Strange New Worlds and didn't get them either time. So I guess I got to ask for them in Lower Decks. But no, not just Tholians, but really like any established alien race that none of the other shows are showing any interest in using. I just particularly want to see the Tholians because we just saw them in TOS and Enterprise and nowhere else, and I want to check in on them, see what they're up to.
Agree. I love that.
And they're much easier to do in animation. No CGI required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
It'd be cool to see their version of like if they did the Tholian web, that the whole design, because the way that they have that blend of traditional and computer animation like that, I think that would probably look pretty cool.
Yeah, it would just have to move a lot quicker than it did in the Tholian web. But I mean, this is over 100 years later, so they're probably their web building tech has only improved.
Shoot out a web all at one time.
Yeah, so I'm not the only one that thought they could have left like at any time, right? I thought that as a child.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to leave Kirk. They were like, oh, like the ship is haunted by Ghost Kirk in his spacesuit. We can't leave him like that.
Also, don't believe the woman when she says she saw him.
Well,
in Star Trek now, you just should believe anybody when they say they saw anybody who might be dead or time travel or anything at this point.
Yeah. There's enough weird stuff that happens. You think people would get used to it.
You'd think.
But also like not just like Tholians, but I want to see more Gorn because I like the Gorn in Lower Decks, how like they're closer to the original series, unlike the Gorn in Strange New Worlds. So I would love to see more Gorn doing stuff other than just selling hot dogs at little stands on star bases.
I heard somebody talk about the way their eyes look, that might be like the equivalent of having some sort of visor or goggle, that their eyes don't look like that underneath. So that's why they look different in Strange New Worlds. I'm like, that's kind of interesting, but that would mean every time we saw them, they were wearing that.
My personal headcanon is that, why would every Gorn look the same as every other Gorn?
Well, but there's different humans on Earth too, but they don't look radically different.
I know.
We do look pretty different. I mean, like if you take like, I don't know, like LeBron James and Danny DeVito and
all right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. People would look at the two of them, like an alien could look at the two of them and go, these are not the same species.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, twin.
Yeah, and then I don't throw in the girl from Wednesday on Netflix in there too, and be like,
her name is Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega.
She flies the ship. Oh wait, no,
that's a different one.
But, I know. It's just like, sorry.
Yeah. An alien would be like, yeah, what the hell? Like these three things don't look the same to me, but.
Yeah.
Aaron, what do you got on your list for number 5?
For number 5, I originally had wanting to see more like Section 31 and Boimler, William Boimler, but I realized we're going to see that. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't imagine them skipping over that in the entire season because we saw him at the end of one of the episodes. So I'm thinking, so that kind of morphed into, I want to see something that I'm not expecting. I want to see something that none of us have talked about tonight. Just we're like, whoa, that could, because as fans, we have all these ideas of what we really want to see, but they're all based on things that we've already seen pretty much, or like take a storyline in a certain direction. But it would be cool to see something just come out of nowhere. We're like, oh wow, I never thought of that. So that's kind of my desire to see that. I think that would be. I think that the writers on Lower Decks are that good. So I'm kind of like. Because right now they're now going back and referencing their own lore, so which is great. Because when it first started, it's like there wasn't much to talk about except for what other Star Trek shows had happened, So
Yeah, that's one of the things I like most about season 3 because it did feel, like they were
Right.
building on top of their own
We've
continuity and their
got
own
Badgie
history.
and Peanut Hamper, and there's all those different villains that are coming together. It seems like it'd be nice if they did a takedown of the universe ending trope that that seems to have happened in the later Star Trek incarnations.
Yeah, but I always welcome surprises in
Yeah,
any storytelling. Like I don't want to I don't want it to be predictable. I always welcome if it's a good surprise. I'm always going to prefer that.
good predictable. Yeah, yeah. There's good predictable and bad predictable.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I really I'll go about it. One of the things I really like about Lower Decks when they use their Easter eggs, it doesn't feel like pandering, even though it should because there's so many of them. But it works. I don't know because maybe it's more like a game for fans to like find the things as opposed to let me throw this in your face. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? So they work it in well, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't come off as fan servicey.
Yes, that's
Uh
Agree.
Brandy, what do you got on number 4? Let's start round number 4.
Okay, this is another one of my weird ones. And this is, of course, not necessarily a storyline or anything like that, but I would like Rutherford to make a second attempt at creating a normal Badgie, or even perhaps a good Badgie, to battle bad
Ooh.
Badgie, because we know we're going to see bad Badgie again. We know that from the season finale. He's going to show up again, and I would just love to see a showdown between a good Badgie and a bad Badgie.
I had not thought of that before either, but yeah, there's no reason why that couldn't happen. That would make tons of sense. And there's kind of a tradition of that in I don't know, I think about it in like, superhero stuff because there's so much
Yeah.
superhero
Yeah.
content now, but like a lot of a lot of those big like hero villain rivalries, it's like, Iron Man is going to fight like an evil Iron Man. It's like Spider-Man and Venom, and how they're kind of like the same, or Superman and Bizarro, Green Lantern and Sinestro. It's like the two dudes are like kind of like the same thing but opposite. So have good Badgie and evil Bad. Wouldn't that be cool to have like a Badgie that like we rooted for who was like nice? I would kind of like that.
What would that be like?
It'd be like the Data and Lore, except it would just be Data and Lore if we had met Lore before Data.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my hope. I really just I want to see a good Badgie. I want to see something get resolved with
Then you'll see
Badgie.
bad Badgie pretending to be good Badgie and then not being able to pull it off because he just can't.
He would just start getting so
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
Yeah,
I
I would
think
be
so.
very down for that. Yeah, then that would be something that, well, it would have been a surprise to me. I guess now, like, I'm kind of gonna be like hoping for it, like
Yeah,
Brandy.
I'm
But that's
sorry.
that's a perfect example. No, that's great. But that's like a perfect example of like a good surprise, uh, that we could get in season 4. Um, for me on number 4, I want to see legacy Star Trek guest star actors, but voicing new characters. So
Ooh.
Mm.
they've done that a little bit before. We've had Jeffrey Combs come in as a new character. Kenneth Mitchell did,
Yep.
I think, 3 different voices in Veritas in season 1. J.G. Hertzler has popped up on Lower
Draconic
Decks.
Captain guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in addition to his, various characters he's played and stuff. So like guys like that, like your Jeffrey Combses, your J.G. Hertzlers, your Kenneth Mitchells. I'm just thinking like off the top of my head, Phil Morris has done a ton of voice work. He's done a ton of different Star Trek characters. He's like one of my favorite just rando guest star actors because he pops up in so many things that I love, like Star Trek, or like he's in a ton of like Marvel DC stuff. He's but like I said, like a really good voice actor. He does like tons of voice work, so he'd be a great get. Or John Shook, the Klingon ambassador, and then like he's shown up on some of the shows and stuff. Or Vaughn Armstrong, even like Ethan Phillips. Ethan Phillips has, but before he was Neelix, he was showing up as like Ferengi and stuff. He had like that cameo in
Yeah.
First Contact and showed up on Enterprise. So yeah, like people like that who just they've kind of always been multiple characters in Star Trek. Just drop them into lower decks. It'd be a great way to keep some of those old veterans included in the franchise.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I remember with J.G. Hertzler episode, it was funny because it's like they threw a ship at the Cerritos. And then Picard happens like they've never done that in Star Trek before. I'm like, I did a video where they almost looked identical. They had the same colored beam and everything. It's just like, what? Come on. So animation can be first.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, what
So
do you
I
got
suppose I should. Yeah.
on your number 4?
My number 4 is I want to see consequences for Captain Freeman and Jennifer for their actions from the last episode, the last 2 episodes. Mariner kind of really quickly just absolved her mother of everything, which I felt was a little too fast. But I'm still want to see something. We never saw. He walked right past Jennifer, so we didn't. She didn't even look back. So I want to see that relationship either maybe get fixed. I don't think that's probably going to happen, or just close it off because I just want to see consequences. I like that this show isn't a stereotypical cartoon where everything resets the next day. So we've seen the characters growing. I love that, Tendi has just really come into her own and she's probably going to be a captain one day. So yeah, I want to see that.
Nice.
Yeah, totally.
I think my ideas aren't quite as far out as everybody else's. So I was a little bit more grounded.
I told you mine were weird. Well, there's one pretty normal one coming up, so.
But I think that was, I guess, a fear of mine with Lower Decks, and so far it's done like a good job. But yeah, my fear is that it would kind of, not have enough development, kind of do that reset button, maintain a status quo, and that's kind of, the premise of the show is like these are Lower Decks people. They are the bottom of the totem pole. How long can you keep people there without it being like, yeah, these people never grow or develop or anything? So I think they've avoided that though. There has been growth, there has been development. We saw a ton of that in season 3. I think like, man, these people are just like ensigns forever, but we just found out like, oh, there's going to be promotions in season 4. So
Yeah.
if I hadn't have known that would have been like on my list. It's like
I had it on my list and I had to take it off because I didn't realize that. And I was like, oh crap. Okay, well, goodbye.
Yeah.
That was part of my
same.
revision of my list. It was just like, I want to see, what happens to the group if there's somebody gets promoted and it sticks. I'm like, oh, they're getting promoted. Okay, never mind.
Because we have had 2 promotions previously and neither stuck. Mariner, I guess that's part of her backstory. She's been promoted and demoted various times, which is kind of.
And we have
hilarious.
Talen coming in as well. So that kind of, who knows what that was going to do.
Yay, Vulcans! Sorry.
Brandi, is that number 4 on your list? Did you ask for more Vulcans?
You are out of control.
No, actually, yes, I have lost all control.
Yes.
No, I just love Vulcans, and I think everybody really loved Tallinn when she showed up in 3 ships, because I'm not going to pronounce it in Klingon. So
Wage Douche, I think. I'm sure that's wrong.
I'm sure there's more in it somewhere. Anyway,
I just love that there's a Lower Decks style Vulcan, like who's so not really Lower Decks, but it is for a Vulcan. Just like she's the mariner of her ship.
Oh yeah, when her captain told her that he was transferring her to a human vessel, I'm like, oh come on, that's got to be the Cerritos. And so I was so happy at the end of season 3 because that captain did her dirty, and her crew did her dirty, and she needs a place where she can thrive, and I think that's the Cerritos. But that's not actually my next thing.
Sorry.
What do you got then? What is on your list?
My next thing is because guys, my favorite character is Boimler, and I feel like he's I want to see him still brooding about having gone back in time, and he's doing like regular data purges of old information, and he comes across an unclassified document, and it's the video record of Subspace Rhapsody. And he watches that and it's like, why didn't I show up then? Why did I show up at this time?
He dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I just want him. I just want a reference to that. I mean, I know that there's a reference to that Pike thing that they can't talk about,
Yeah.
but I just want Boimler, just personally, not even sharing it with anyone else, just wanting more, just going through all of the records of the Enterprise under Pike's command, just to remind himself he got to touch those people.
You
I
could
don't.
recreate them in the holodeck. That would be.
Why do you
It's
think
not the
that they
same.
can't? Why
No,
can't
no, I
they
know.
talk about it? Because like the temporal prime directive wouldn't occur to them. Like that was all in the past. It's like it's already happened. So
Yeah,
But
but
their past is still, or our future present. Well,
yeah,
the lower decks present is still somebody's past, so that could
so
it still affect their future somehow.
ripples,
Yeah,
ripples through time. You don't want those if you can help it.
but
it all gives me a
it's like
headache.
when the Enterprise goes back in time to stop the Borg from blowing up Zephram Cochrane. Like I never assume like, oh, we can never talk about this. It has to be like kept, top
Yeah,
secret, classified.
I suppose they don't want people to think that time travel is quite that easy. Maybe
It's really easy.
which might have what led to the
The Temporal
temporal
Wars.
wars. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's stuff like that that led to the Temporal Wars.
You're
So
going to
this
have people
is
claiming that the Starfleet went back in time to make themselves stronger or whatever, and then I could see the Romulans complaining about that and pulling out of treaties or whatever. So it could be it could start a Cold War, a temporal Cold War.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Maybe Boimler started the temporal Cold War.
we know
No!
something. We know something
You would be
started.
devastated.
I mean, not
Oh,
on purpose, but he did
what if-
accidentally, break up Spock and Chapel. So
Yeah.
No, he did not. Chapel was always going to break up with Spock. I know it. You know it. That is her pattern. They established this in season 1. Don't even act like it's Boimler's fault.
he feels like it's his fault.
It could be
He
part of a
needs to.
predestination paradox where he still
Yeah.
does it, but it's going to happen regardless.
We
Yeah,
never
it
find
was-
out if Bashir did or did not bang his great grandma. So the predestination paradoxes can get a little weird.
But right now, I mean, if we want to talk about weird predestination paradoxes, the reason that Chapel and Spock were even a thing in this go around is that we heard later that his Salot was alive when he was a teenager, which means he did not go through yesteryear at that point already. And so he didn't choose to be Vulcan at age 7. He just kept growing and probably looked at his human side more. And so as soon as he gets to 2270 and then goes through that Guardian of Forever, this whole back part will reset slightly.
Yeah, there's
In a
there's
weird
one
predestination
thing
paradox. Yeah.
when he tells Kirk there is one thing different. This time a pet died.
And Kirk's like, yeah, whatever. What could that cause? Or what could that hurt? Like, yeah, okay, thanks, Shatner. Kirk, I mean.
He doesn't care about. If it had been a horse, he would have cared, but he doesn't care about
Yes.
Salots.
Yeah.
Well, Brandi, that was your number 3, right?
My number 3.
So my turn, right?
Yeah.
My number 3 kind of ties into the subject that we're on, but I want to see other current Star Trek shows referenced beyond Strange New Worlds, because I know that they are gonna, have that little slight reference to the Pike thing they can't talk about, and we're probably gonna see that Una poster. I'd be shocked if that Una poster doesn't show up in Boimler's locker, but I think it'd be cool if they just. Because some people like to forget that all these shows do, take place in the same shared universe, the same timeline. It's all canon. It's all there. So I want to see more things like when they had like those Ritos shirts that were referencing the disco shirts on Discovery, or when they mention Admiral Picard. I think there's a ton of Picard season 3 stuff they could talk about. That we know they're going to Voyager, so I'm hoping we get to see some of the Starship Museum that they had in Picard season 3, or they could reference any of that stuff.
It seems like we're going to see Voyager as a museum, at least.
Yeah.
The trailer.
I mean, like they're hanging out on the Voyager bridge in the trailer, so I hope that we actually visit that fleet museum.
That'd be cool,
from Picard
especially because they
season
mentioned
3.
it in the Pike episode, like how they went to the Boimler drug her to the fleet museum and the grapplers.
Yeah,
the NX-01.
I love
that would have
grapplers.
had to have happened before this. So
Oh no,
guess
I know, but I mean, they could go back. Is what I'm saying. Is like,
Mm.
there's no reason why they couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know if they would like mention like, oh yeah, we've been here before or something like that. But yeah, I
You could
mean,
just have Mariner going, "Oh, not again," something like that.
the show I would most want to see acknowledged though would be the sister animated show Prodigy. I hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy, but I would really love if they could like somehow like reference anything from Prodigy.
And
When
that's is it in their future slightly?
Prodigy is like a couple years after. Well, we don't know when season 4 takes
Oh,
place.
that's true.
It might be still be 2381, but they might have finally like moved into 2382 because both seasons 2 and 3 are in 81 as far as I could tell. But if they go into 82, then that just puts them, I think, a year before. I think Prodigy begins in 83. And then
That sounds right.
Mars blows up in 85, I think. So
Yeah, we've
uh,
got that coming up.
yeah, Prodigy is getting close to that, and those creators of teased like they're gonna possibly be connecting with that stuff from Picard season
Badgie.
1. Badgie blew up
He's the
all
one who
the
like started the
ships,
whole.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He started the AI revolution. Yeah, if you can't tell, like it looks like a lot of these TV writers like really don't like artificial intelligence. I wonder why.
Hmm.
It's a stumper.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I mean that'd be my number 3. Anything they could do, just throw in some Prodigy, throw in some Discovery, throw in some Strange New Worlds, throw in some Picard. I'd love to see any of I know that they're gonna reference all the legacy shows. I'm gonna see DS9 stuff, Voyager stuff, TNG stuff. But let's throw in some. Season 4 was just developed the last couple of years, so after like these other shows have kind of established themselves and have had like multiple seasons out, and there would be time for the Lower Decks creators to be like, oh, we can use that on our show. So love to see that. Aaron, what do you got for your number 3?
For my number 3, I want to see a Q episode. And I don't know if it would be with maybe Q's son. Maybe they get their own version, their own Q. It could be somebody with a guest star who has a really who's wanted to be on the show. They could make that person a Q, like Lady Q that we had on Voyager. So I think something like that, where it's just like they get to have their own bizarre adventure, which we kind of saw glimpses of when because they've had Q visit before. Either that or maybe Lucian from Magix and Megas 2, who was very much a Q-like alien. I kind of think that would be fun.
I'd rather see him than Q, just because like I've seen a lot of Q.
Yeah, that's true. But that's why I was saying their own Q, somebody who's different.
Yeah, or
But
just
yeah.
it could be like a rogue member of the Q continuum.
It'd be interesting if they wanted to. They said, "Well, I'm going to join Starfleet."
What if they
I'm
made
starting
like
on the Cerritos or something?
their own Q, but he's like, but I'm not a Q. I'm you. You're me. Like no, I am you. Like that's my name is you. I come after Q.
What happened at RS and T?
They would have been before. That was Trelane, because Trelane predated Q, as Mariner explained to Boimler. So,
see, they had the Trelane. They mentioned Trelane. That's why I'm thinking Lucian could actually be a thing, because he's also in that sort of vein. He snaps his fingers with a flash. He loves humanity. He's it feels like it could actually be the Q continuum in an earlier incarnation or something like that. Like that turns into the Q continuum, or it's just what is it, like they had the Mentaka, who are the proto Vulcans. It could be a proto Q society. Proto
Q.
Yeah. Like the proto star. Okay. But yeah, no, I would. That's what I want. I would want to see just what is an off the rails episode for Lower Decks, which is already off the rails.
Off the rails, yeah.
Yeah, and Q would work so well in animation because, like, again, you could draw anything, and they kind of teased that a little bit, and that was Veritas also, right? When we saw Q interacting
like with a game.
Yeah,
weird.
He kind of had like Captain Freeman on trial or something, but it was like a chessboard with like playing cards. And it was it was like super. There's like a globe dancing around, singing a song about you have to pass the trial or whatever. Yeah,
but it was so funny because she's like, but I do not understand what is the point of this game. What are we supposed to be doing? It was so all over the place.
And
But yeah,
John Delancey, I think he would have a lot of fun if he was allowed to play like a hammier Q that could get, quite silly as opposed to like the more serious version he did in Picard season 2, where he's like
and
slapping Patrick Stewart in the face and stuff like that.
and this is where you could actually have him reference things that happened in the future. You could still have him reference Picard. It just hasn't happened yet because he's, I don't know, that would be kind of fun too, where it's like we've never really seen that, and this feels like it's low stakes enough that they could do that.
Yeah, the final scene of Star Trek Picard with Q and Jack Crusher kind of is in that vein where he's like, I thought you died, and he's like, oh, you think so linearly, like your dad,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. But yeah,
That's why Q's son would be kind of fun too. But I think in Picard it would have been better if it was Q's son. I think that could have been interesting, but
I remember.
I think that's probably too deep of a cut for people
Yeah,
who.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of your typical fan would be like, well, why can't I just see like real Q? I don't care about Q Junior, but
Q Junior was fun.
I would love for them to like push that forward. That was like John Delancey's idea in 2001. He's kind of like, yeah, I don't think I need to play Q anymore. Just like give it to the boy, let him do it.
It's his actual son, right?
Right. Yeah. He
Yeah.
doesn't act anymore, but I mean,
No.
they probably want to recast anyways, so that doesn't matter. Yeah, I'd love to see more Q on Lower Decks. I guess we should transition to the number 2. So we're getting close to the big one, getting close to the final round. I'd be curious what people got on that, but number 2, Brandi, what's the I guess the second thing you most want to see in Star Trek Lower Decks season 4?
More Jeffrey Combs, please. And I don't necessarily mean as Agamus. I would love to see him show up as Brunt or a Wayun clone, or maybe
Ooh.
several Wayun clones.
He could show up as Brunt in the episode that we've seen where they're on Frankenar. He might.
Yeah, I would love that.
That would be
I
cool.
I would love that. Give me that, because I figure if we're gonna see Ferenginar in this season, give me some Brunt, man. Give me some Brunt, because he's good at doing all these things. And I need more Jeffrey Combs in my life. There's not enough. Give it to me.
Yeah, I'll never say no to more Jeffrey Combs. That's in fact, if we don't see Brunt in the Ferenginar episode, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. You could also do something where Jeffrey Combs plays like 3 different characters, like talking to himself, essentially.
That too. Let's get him, that weird alien from the early days of Deep Space Nine that wanted a holograph of Kira, and Brunt, Wayun. Yeah, get Shran up in there. Maybe they're on the holodeck. You could get all 4 of them.
That could be where Boimler says, like, does it just me, or does all their voices sound kind of the same?
Well, Brunt sounded very different.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yes. He sounded very different.
Yeah, he had the Ferengi teeth.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be, even if it was only like Wayun and Brunt in a scene together, because that always would have been cool. I mean, the fact that we had like the 2 of them in the same episode was cool as hell. Like, I remember like in 1999 thinking like, oh my god, this is so cool. Brunt and Wayun are both gonna be in this episode. Never in the same room, but that doesn't matter. And like, I didn't expect that then anyway, but now it'd be pretty easy to do, especially in animation.
Yeah.
In animation would be very easy to do.
Give it to me.
Well, my number 2, which we've kind of talked about this a little bit already, it's come up, but I know we're getting to Lynn in season 4, but I want a lot of T'Lyn. I think she is an amazing character. I love that idea of the Vulcan mariner, the Vulcan outrageous crazy one who's too wild, who they can't keep in line, and just the Vulcan version of that is so tame and not that by human standards. It's funny. It's the perfect Lower Decks gag. She, I think, is gonna add a very interesting dynamic to the cast. I don't know how much she's gonna be included. I would love for her to be like, basically, instead of it just being like the big 4, if they just extended that to the big 5, and she's just in it as much as say Tendi and Rutherford. She's just like right there with them in every episode. I don't know if we'll get that much. So to be more realistic, I'm gonna settle for just having her in it as much as the secondary characters like Freeman, Ransom, Shax, like the bridge crew people. If she could just like be in the show with like that level of presence, because I think there's a ton of great things they can do with her, and I want to see, how does she interact with Mariner, how does she interact with Tendi, how does she
Well,
interact
she's
with
training with
Boimler?
Tendi, so yeah, so
Hmm.
she should be around more.
Yeah, and if they are getting promoted to lieutenants, if she comes over as an ensign, I don't know what her, I know
Mm.
it's a provisional rank, but I haven't double checked what it is. I think she's at an ensign level, but yeah, maybe she's like the person they're giving orders to. Maybe like when they go and command away missions and stuff, she's like someone who has to report to them. So
Where one of
Yeah.
them gets some, basically a swelled head and decides that they're takes that in charge thing a little too far or something.
I could I
Mm.
could totally see, like, I don't know, like maybe who would
I
be
can see
like that?
Boimler doing that a
Boimler?
little bit. Like,
Because he
yeah,
would want to try to. He'd want to try to get it right so hard that
yeah.
he's like so dedicated and driven. He expects everyone to be as dedicated and driven as him, and it's probably not gonna happen. So
We'll see. I personally think that Talin will be a pretty regular character because people responded to her very
mhm.
positively on Three Ships, and I think to just have her show up once in a while would be a waste of the character. So I'm pretty sure that they're smart enough to use her a lot in this season. Fingers crossed, because I love me some Vulcans, and I really love Talin.
Yeah, and she's
And
a
we heard the
unique
voice
Vulcan.
actress. Huh?
Or just saying,
I'm
like,
sorry.
she's a very unique Vulcan.
Oh
She's
yeah,
not like Spock. She's not like Tuvok. She's not like T'Pol. She'd very much be like her own her own character.
Yep.
that would be cool.
What were you saying,
And she's
Aaron?
done another voice as well. The Mariners, or I mean, Jennifer's friend, the one who is doing the salon.
Oh, that
Castro?
one.
Yeah,
Was it Castro who had served on the Enterprise?
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
part of like the Red Shirts gang.
so we could have her come back too as well. That would actually could have her if you wanted to have two people talking to themselves. You could have her and Talin having words, which would be fun.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
Mike McMahon told us, because Wage Douche was way back in season 2. That was 2 years ago. Hard to
Hmm.
believe at this point, but yeah. And Mike McMahon said like she's coming back in season 3, and I was like, yes, we're getting her in season 3. And then later when we started getting close to season 3, he's like, well, she comes back in season 3, but she's not in it much. She'll be in season 4 more. And I was like, okay, well that's cool. At least I'll get to see her some. And then I'm go the whole season 3. I get to like the last episode. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so still ain't seen Talin. Guess she's in this last episode. And I'm watching the episode. I'm like, I'm 17 minutes into this 23-minute episode. I still have not seen Talin. Like, am I actually gonna get her or not? And then it's like the very, very, very end. I guess like the last thing before the end credits secret little tease scene with Badgie getting beamed up to who knows where. But yeah, they really made me wait till the end to see her in season 3. So I want to see her early in season 4, and I want to see a lot of her throughout the season.
Agree completely.
This takes us to Aaron's number 2. Aaron, what do you got?
My original number 2, I won't. I'm trying to get more in, I guess, than I should. Was I'm just excited to see what they're going to do. This is more of an excited thing with the intro, because last year we had the the Romulans, the Klingons, the crystalline entity, the Borg cube, all fighting with each other, along with the Pakleds. So it's like, how does that get even more crazy in this next intro?
I can't
But
wait to see.
But my number 2 for real is I want to see more TAS aliens. We knew that had to come up eventually. I want to see the Philosian that they've referenced 2 times now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, like get that Philosian into a scene somewhere.
The plant people who made the giant Spock, if you don't recall.
Yes.
But
And
That they broke the skeleton of.
yeah.
Brandi,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. I know Aaron knows it, but I told Walter Koenig at Star Trek Mission Chicago last year. I told him like, yeah, that episode you wrote that had like the giant Spock, like one of the new shows, Lower Decks. They show him dead. His like giant skeleton on display, and I asked like, how do you feel about? Like I almost thought like are you offended they killed your giant Spock? And he was like, oh wow, they used that character.
I
Like,
was
that's
offended.
amazing. Yeah.
I was angry at Mike
Aaron was
McMahon.
way more upset than Walter Koenig. Just thought it was cool, but
That's
I-
adorable.
At the season 2 premiere of Lower Decks, I was lucky enough to actually go, and it was done outside like a block party because COVID was still much bigger, and so I'm there like I leaned over and told my friend Ian, who was with me, just something like, "Oh, I can't believe this!" Like, and you hear from the back, Mike McMahon is like, "He was very old." He's like, "Well, you should be alive now." It's like, so yeah, so there's actually a little bit. I can't say anything yet, but eventually that story might come back. So just remember this moment for that.
Right.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
guess we
and
don't know.
the Aurelian and the Score are the other two that I want, like that whole, the bird people basically, which they seem to really like. So
Yeah, Aaron, we've talked about like this. I guess it's like in like beta canon now, but like the or perhaps it will be, but like the idea, like the fan theory. I guess it started out as a fan theory. The idea that the Score and the Aurelians, the two like big yellow bird people, kind of look like Big Bird, but
One
the
has
two of
groin
them-
plumage, the other does not.
yeah, the groin plumage, which was
yeah, you were with me when I was doing that, wasn't I?
the term that Aaron came up with that is now quoted on Memory Alpha, I believe, or it was
I
at
need
some
to be
point.
careful with what I say.
The Memory Alpha editors,
Well,
they
it
take
became
things
a
a bit
conversation
literal.
between me and Brad Winters that turned into the idea that possibly the Score and Aurelian were like Romulans and Vulcans, and that because they kept saying, "Oh, this is a Score." I'm like, it can't be because they don't, But it's like if they've rejoined, if they've come back together again, it could definitely be. So they're now one people again, reunited. So that's kind of the headcanon that we created. So I don't know if it will ever show up anywhere, but it would be cool. Yeah, it'd be very excited that if a tweet caused a change in canon.
This is what they need to do. They need to do a Lower Decks episode called Unification 4, and it's about the Aurelians and Score reuniting.
Oh, I want that.
That's great.
Right?
I love it. I want that.
So, Mike, I hope you're listening to this because we're giving you some golden ideas for season 5.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. You know.
I guess this brings us to the
Number 1.
final round. So
Final
this is it.
round.
These are the big ones. These are the things we most want to see in season 4. I would ask the people in the live audience to please comment and let us know the thing you most want to see in season 4 of Lower Decks. But Brandi, why don't you start the final round and tell us the number 1 item on your list?
Well, it's kind of been talked about a little bit, but what I really want to see, and I don't even know how it would happen at this point, but I want it. I want to see a Lower Decks Prodigy crossover, and I want all the Lower Decks people to be in
Yes.
Prodigy animation style.
I'd love that.
That would be awesome.
I want that. That's my number 1 thing. Because
I mean-
save Star Trek Prodigy, y'all.
Hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah, how
It's
would
like-
we make that happen?
I don't know.
Time
but
travel, I
want it
guess.
so much.
It would have to be something that like they started working on like 2 years ago because Prodigy takes like a long time to animate. But
Well,
If
then you
not
could just
this
go the
season, then
opposite direction.
someday.
Put them into Lower Decks because that would be quicker to animate.
Yeah, it's just a really big wish. I know it's not something that's going to be in season 4, but that's my biggest wish.
I would love that.
I think there's a lot of potential crossover. Like maybe not, have like Gwen and Dal walking around on the Cerritos, but that Denobulan dude assigned to that far out outpost, Barnus Frex, I believe was his name.
Yeah,
like,
Frex.
He was kind of a shitty Starfleet officer, and it suggested that's why he was given such a terrible post.
He came from Starbase 80.
Yeah, I mean, maybe something.
Starbase 80.
We could see him do something in Lower Decks because this is like a couple years before that, or maybe only a year before it, but still, like, yeah, show him like
That's what sends him there.
yeah, show him like get in trouble, or maybe it's not even like entirely his fault. Maybe like I don't know, like Rutherford and Boimler do something, but like it reflects bad on him or something. I don't know. There's I'm not the one who's gonna write this. Let the writer figure it out. But yeah, do something like that, and then have
You
him
do
be
it.
like sent off to you're gonna go to this far off post and meet some teenagers that show up in a stolen ship eventually. But Go hang out there by yourself.
I like it.
But yeah. Any crossover with Prodigy, it's like,
Yeah.
why not? Like, it's such a good show, and it's like I guess the least watched of the current shows as part of the reason we're in the pickle that we're in right now. And but it's so damn good. It's like the people
But you can
need
tell
to.
that like the fans who do watch it, I wish that studios understood this. Like, if you have really dedicated fans, that's better than having a lot of like, I watched it for its season and it was very popular and then it's gone. It's just like you create a long lasting. You know how many people who are actually in our chat room right now too have been asking for merch for like since it came out. Like,
Mhm.
there's stuff that people would buy. There, I don't know. It feels like it's very beloved for the people who are watching it.
Agree.
And
And
it's not like a tiny of it.
where the hell is the Rock Talk figure? Huh?
Yeah,
Where's that?
I wanted
'Cause
that. I was
that's
very
my
excited
favorite.
for it.
Yeah, that's my favorite character
She's the
in
only one
Prodigy.
who didn't get one in the initial wave. I guess there were plans
Well,
for one,
no
but I don't know if they're.
Janeway either, right?
Yeah, she was gonna be in like the second wave, both of them,
Oh, okay.
Janeway and Rock Talk. But
The second wave. Main character, come on. Whatever.
It feels weird that Janeway wasn't in the first wave, honestly.
right.
Yeah, it's like that's just what you do. All the
Yeah.
people that we followed through on that ship, just that's your first wave. But I'm not in marketing.
Joel in our live audience is pointing out
That's probably a good thing.
I think you'd be great in marketing, Brandi. I don't know. Like, I'd like to see some advertisements you'd think up. But Joel in our live audience is saying they could give Murph a Romulan L. That's something they're not allowed to do on Prodigy. Apparently, is like I don't know if that's like a
that's
Nickelodeon
right.
thing or who that came from. But yeah, the writer producer
That's
Aaron
a
Welke
Nickelodeon thing.
he told us like they tried to get Romulan L on the show, and they were like they're gonna call it Romulan Bubbly, and like that wasn't even they couldn't even get by
in the bar where they had the diviner was acting like the bartender in the holodeck thing. The drinks behind them, they couldn't even show something that sort of looked like a wine bottle or a Romulan ale bottle or anything like that. So yeah.
So he's not really a bartender. Like they made him a barista. He's like making cups of coffee and stuff. Because that's when I go to a Murphy No Shoes concert, I need to be caffeinated, I guess.
He's got a lot of energy, so you need to keep up with him.
Yep.
Well, I guess that brings us to my number one, the thing I most want to see in Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4. This kind of ties into the theme we brought up about, not having that reset button, not maintaining the status quo. We want to see progress. We want to see growth. We want to see development. So my number one thing I want to see is I want to see true, full-on, unapologetic Tendi and Rutherford romance, and I want it to stick. I don't necessarily need them, to be married with children, but at least like let them like have like a whole year together. But I want them to be like in a full-on committed relationship. I know that they're teasing the two of them together in like a Vegas style wedding on Ferenginar, but I don't know if that's going to be like a one episode thing or what. But I think it's clear that they have feelings for each other. They've kind of suggested that. When Rutherford was telling Badgie, I think when he's like, I just wanted to impress her on the holodeck, she's so cute and stuff like that. And then when Mariner had her away mission with Tendi, and Tindy's like, are you and Boimler together? And Mariner's like, no, that's gross. Why would you think that? Are you and Rutherford together? And Tindy says something like, well, not really. Or, hers is like a little less definitive, her answer.
Yeah.
So they clearly have feelings for each other. Don't draw this out forever. It's 4 seasons. Let's start shoving them together and get them in a relationship.
Well, to be fair, in Strange Energies, she did tell him not to date Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, she
straight up said
Barnes?
Yeah, she just straight up said don't date Barnes.
She's like, I will shoot you with this medical gun. This
was after that. Yeah. This was when they were making up.
The medical gun is great though.
Yeah, it was so great, so great. Too bad she didn't have one of those around when she was trying to scan Dr. T'Ana. She could have tranked her really fast.
Yeah, that would have been the ideal way to handle that situation, I suppose.
Apart from having a compound fracture in her arm.
But there's really like no one in like a full on like romantic relationship on the show. Is there? I know like Freeman is married, but we rarely ever see her husband. We see him
Well,
like
that's
twice
because
a
he's not on the
season.
ship. Well, we've got Shax and Ta'ana. They've got a relationship for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. They have a spicy relationship. We'll say like I don't.
Spicy. They
Yeah,
enjoy each other.
they do very much so. You know, good for them. They deserve that. I hope that they're happy.
Yeah.
Aaron, this is gonna
Yeah.
be the big finale one. So
No pressure.
no pressure. What do
The
you got?
return of the Van Sitters. No. The ship, by the way, if nobody knows, like the Van Sitters is named after John Van Sitters, who is like the VP of Star Trek, essentially. So that was that. I've never known anybody who had a starship named after them, so now I do, which is kind of fun. My number one is I want to see Crisis Point 3: The Search for Nick Nack.
I forgot about Nick Nack.
Like, where did Nick Nack go? What?
I'd never forget about Nick Nack.
So I want them to do. I want them to incorporate the last two episodes or two storylines and like put that together and then turn it into one of those like Easter egg laden movie, homages. And yeah, I would love to see another one. I guess if they're going by how they have been doing them, it's every other year. So probably not this year, but I would still love to see it because
Is that
those
what
are my
they do?
favorite
Is
episodes.
it gonna be every other? That's kind of like how Buffy did like the Halloween episodes. They're like, we're not gonna do this every year. We're gonna do it every other year, which I think was a smart move.
Because it was the first year, the third year, and now it probably wouldn't be the fourth year.
So maybe
Or first
5.
season, third season. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my. I just really love those episodes. It's like the cast or the crew of the Cerritos gets to be Star Trek fans essentially. They're because the one time she's like, "This is it's right. This is a Starfleet movie," and that all she needed to say was Star Trek. That was just it's basically that. So substitute Star Trek for Starfleet, and that's So just it lets them be revel in what they love doing and kind of imagine they're doing it better.
Isn't that role playing? Really?
Yeah.
And that's what these movies are. Is it's role playing?
Yeah, totally. Which
We
is
could
what
combine that
people
with
would.
their game that they were playing.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
that's what people would do with holodecks. Like, it's basically
Yeah.
It is like a giant RPG machine, right?
If only. The things I could do with a holodeck and not in a dirty way.
Although I guess you would have that option too. So
Yeah. I would never do that because then someone has to clean out those filters and I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, and they don't get paid for it because Starfleet Federation. So
there is no pay.
But
I loved when when they were getting the mummy. No, it wasn't mummy. I think whatever they were stealing in the last scene where they were on Ferengi, or no, so Ferengi was going after Mariner for whatever she stole that they were taking back.
she's
to the
getting that
museum.
little gold statue
gold
thing,
statue,
like from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And that she's talking about something, and it's like who funds all this, and what was her friend? What is the Indiana Jones lady?
I cannot remember her name to save my life. I'm so
all right,
sorry.
Good.
It sounds like Katniss Everdeen, but I know it's not that. But it sounds kind of similar.
We're just going to call her Katniss Everdeen from now on. That's her name. Who cares what her real name is? She's Katniss Everdeen.
Katniss Everdeen is just like, oh, it's so cute that you think you understand money. Which I thought was great. Because, it's like, what does she know about it? Like when Brad Boimler went in, why am I calling his full name? When Boimler went in and played Dabo for hours on end and then just like, I don't want it. We don't use money. I'll take the coupon. Austin. Thank you, Joel.
I got it right here. Petra Aberdeen.
It's Katniss Everdeen. Come on.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
I mean, they had to have been thinking that, right?
It's I do that. I will latch on to the wrong name, and that's all that I will call that character. It's a very annoying habit that I have.
I mean, I don't even like like the Hunger Game movies that much. I've seen like each of them one time, I think, and didn't see any of
Same.
them in the theater. Like I saw them, after they had already been out for a little bit. But yeah, just for some reason, Katniss Everdeen's very very memorable. Petra Aberdeen, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Hunger Games was the first time I ever saw Jack Quaid, so yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he was in those, and
He was in
probably
the
didn't know
first
who he was
movie.
back then.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
one of the evil people that killed Rue.
Mm.
You son of a bitch. I
Mhm.
can see him as a evilly dude, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got depth. He can do lots of things. He has his own comedy troupe.
his acting in Strange New Worlds was very impressive because one of my concerns going into that was like Boimler's kind of like the skinny dweeb, and Jack Quaid he's kind of a big dude. He's like is he going to be able to like physically embody Boimler? And as soon as I saw him in motion, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah, that is Boimler's face, that is Boimler's mannerisms, like that.
It kind of
Just
spoiled me for like wanting to watch real live Lower Decks. Like, okay, now I
Yes.
need this.
Yes. Yes. Let's get all four of them in live action. I mean, it's going to kind of be hard because Orions are not easy to
Yeah.
do because all that makeup,
And
but
some people are allergic
it'll
to
be
it.
fun. Yeah, it'd be so fun. It'd be so fun to see all four of them in live action.
Yeah, maybe they could like digitally tint Noel Wells green if it's just for like
Yeah.
one scene or something.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Because I
I mean,
almost
they
wondered
can
if
put uniforms on people in Marvel movies. They could do that. I think change the skin
Yeah.
color should be
had
doable.
had they considered possibly having like Tindy and Rutherford like poke their heads through the portal in Strange New Worlds, because we hear their voices. So
Mhm.
I
I don't know
can't
if
remember why they didn't, but I don't think they ever considered actually bringing them on. It didn't sound
right.
like.
They could always. It doesn't have to be in Strange New Worlds. It could be anywhere, but they could have them show up in live action somewhere else.
Yeah.
I keep talking about this because no one else. It doesn't seem to be like a big deal to anyone else. But eventually, very soon in the near future, we're gonna get to the 1000th episode of Star Trek, and I really want that to be like a big
Wow.
celebratory. I think we had a
A
big missed
giant
opportunity
crossover.
with. We didn't do much, talking about like the TAS 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do hardly anything for the entire franchise 50th anniversary in 2016. Like
Yeah.
they put out a movie in theaters that was
I
already
remember people
scheduled to
complained
be
about
out,
that
but
too. Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing really. Like we had Star Trek Beyond, and that was, and then I like STLV was the official 50-year celebration, and that was it. They did nothing else. So
I was
big
hoping
missed
this year they would
opportunity.
have done the crossover with TAS, which would have kind of made sense and fit too. It would have been easier. Well, not easier necessarily, but and then I was talking with Mike, and it didn't sound like that was something that was going to ever happen, which is sad. But we did get this crossover.
Yeah, I always thought it'd be
And
fun if they flash back to the 23rd century in Lower Decks, but whenever they show like the 23rd century footage, it's just
Mhm.
animated TAS style.
Yeah,
yes.
And like no explanation, just like that's what the 23rd century looks like, and then you come
you
to the
get the
24th century and it looks, like normal Lower Deck style.
and you get somebody talking like this the entire time, their hand over their mouth, or
Oh
like the
yeah,
really
make it
close up one eye
make it
in the
easier to
corner.
animate. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to get like the run cycle in there.
Mm-hmm.
I dig that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that brings us to the end of the show, which is
Yes.
sad, but it's exciting that we get new Lower Decks to talk about in 2 weeks.
Very
So I
soon.
hope folks come back for that. And I don't, Aaron, I'm, what we were talking about doing for next week. I'm very much like on board and excited to do that. If that's still what you're.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
just to let folks know, come back.
no, just keep it
next.
between us.
I didn't want to like speak for you, but
No,
Uh,
I that's fine. Thank you.
people really need to come back next week though, because Aaron and I are going to be doing a Lower Decks season 3 retrospective and talk about how we felt about season 3 before we go into season 4. That was something that you didn't get the chance to cover on Drawn to Trek
Yeah.
before, so
And all of those like little threads that people may have forgotten about or something that we can bring up that, so when you watch the show, you can like, oh, that's what they talked about.
yes, I was I was able to make like an opening in my schedule the next few days to actually dedicate some time to binging Lower Deck season 3. So I haven't seen
I
those
just finished
episodes
this
in a
morning.
while. Yeah, I got the Blu-ray set. I'm gonna check out all the special features on there. So yeah, I'm really excited to revisit season 3 and in
Oh, that's right.
preparation
There
of
are
season
special things.
4.
Yeah, I didn't watch it on Blu-ray. I was just watching it on Paramount Plus. I should do that.
And Brandy, you'll be talking about Lower Decks, I assume, with our friend Dan Gunther on the Unready Room on YouTube.
Yes, that will definitely be happening. And the time may change depending on Dan's work schedule. Right now, the most recently, we've been doing it at noon Mountain Time on Saturdays. If you don't know what noon Mountain Time is, then look in your phone because you have a world clock in there and you can figure out what time zone is is your time. Okay, I'm not going to lay that out for you. You can figure that out on your own. You're smart enough. I believe in
This
you.
is the same conversation we had about Fatheree's time zone on our thing.
Well, that's the thing, Brandy. I'm sure you'll agree with me, but East Coast people and West Coast people both forget that like other time zones exist. East Coast are the worst about it. Like they're like
Yeah,
they
East
assume.
Coast does. I think West Coast people know that
Yeah.
everything's before them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, y'all are,
it's just
y'all are
like,
more aware. Like,
yeah,
like you wake up and like all like the big news has already been announced because like your 9 a.m. is gonna be like New York's noon. So,
yeah.
but yeah, like people on the East Coast, they think like when you say like 9 o'clock East Coast is like they think they should just say like 9 o'clock and everyone knows it's like, oh yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah, we don't
You
we
know
don't
why I think modern audiences don't probably know that as much is because they didn't get commercials that would say, 9 p.m. Pacific, 3 whatever. It would kind of it would occasionally give you all the different if it's central or mountain or whatever.
Oh no, 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 no. Mountain was never included
Oh,
in
in
those
Washington
old
State it
commercials.
was.
Well, it
That's
was
weird.
it isn't here. It was never. It was always
Wow.
East Coast, Central, Pacific. We were
Huh.
nothing to them
that's
back
what
in
we
the
Weird.
80s.
Aaron, we did that in our promo for like the return of Drawn to Trek. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we'll stream on the Tex-Trek YouTube channel at
Yeah.
here's the
You said,
Central, Pacific, and East
yeah.
time zones.
But yeah, we did leave mountain out.
We snubbed the
Oops.
Mountain
Hmm.
time zone, so apologies.
See, still
Yeah.
happening. 30 years later, 40 years
We need to
later,
go back and
still
edit
happening.
that.
We exist, and Dan and I are even in the same time zone. We're both in Mountain.
To be honest, we weren't even going to mention Eastern. We just sort of came out at the same time.
That's fine. But yeah, we do that. We do that. So we do that for every new episode of Trek, and I love doing it. It's one of the highlights of my week. So we'll be back definitely for Lower Decks.
And you're on some other podcast also.
You're on a lot of podcasts,
Something.
aren't you?
Well,
where can people
they're
listen
not all
to you?
they're not all going right now, but
Oh.
I do have the one that I'm just finishing up. There were a lot of delays, but I have a Strange New Worlds podcast called Boldly Go, and I still have yet to get the final episode for the season out on that. There was some complications with illness and such that delayed recording for those, but episode this for the 9th episode, it got released yesterday, and I'm hoping to get that 10th episode released sometime next week. And I do have 2 other podcasts. They're both in hiatus right now, but I have What the Future Holds, which is about Star Trek Discovery, and the Vedic Assembly, which is about, I don't know. Oh, yeah, Deep Space Nine. So hopefully I'm going to get both of those back up and running, especially with Discovery coming in 2024. And yeah, I went through a lot of life changes like in the past year, and it just kind of messed everything up.
That's why
As
I'm on
far as
episode
keeping on
12
track.
of Drawn to Trek.
No, I get
Yeah,
it. I get
you and I
it.
both had some similar issues.
Yeah, some really big things
Yeah.
happened, and some other really big things happened just personally, not really having to do with anyone else. So it's just sorry, guys. I'm just one person, and sometimes I need my alone time.
You're a
Okay.
dynamo, though.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say, because I certainly do not feel like one.
Oh,
Yeah, Brandy, you've given the world a lot of content. So, and I've enjoyed a lot of it. I've
Thank
followed a lot of
you.
your work, and I'm happy to I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm happy to finally have had you on our show, and hopefully it's something we can do again in the future.
Oh, I'm in. You just let me know.
Awesome.
Cool. And gonna take time now to say thank you to the Tex-Trek Patreon supporters who do make the show. Thank you. So thank you, Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchy, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Earl Grey Trekkie, Quark Spar, Benjinium, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A, and our anonymous supporters. Please, folks, come back next week, and be sure you're following us for all of our Lower Decks Season 4 coverage throughout the entire season. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Live long.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fatheree on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.